Keeper of the Lost Cities, EXILE, Chapter 19. Alden froze, and the panic in his eyes made Sophie worry she'd gone too far, but he blinked it away and whispered, "I hope not." That wasn't the answer she was looking for, but it was better than yes. "Why do you ask?" Because I don't think they did. It felt good to say it out loud, made it feel real, and I think the clue might have something to do with that. Something in the past they want me to find that would help clear the name. "I suppose it's possible," Alden said slowly. "But whose past? Yours?" Sophie shook her head. She didn't know her past. Not her real one, anyway. She didn't even know who her real parents were. All Alden had learned from Prentice was her DNA. She gasped. "What if it's Prentice?" "Prentice?" Alden repeated, turning pale. "Yeah, he's the one who led you to me, right? So he probably knows everything about me. Maybe if you brought him to me, I could..." He grabbed her shoulders. "Stop right there, Sophie. I know what you're going to say, and you do not realize the danger. A broken mind cannot be probed. The Black Swan knows that. Everyone knows that. Prentice is not the answer. Prentice is nothing. Believe me, I can't tell you how much I wish it weren't so." His voice cracked on the last part, and he looked away. When he turned back to her, he looked 50 years older. "You're faster!" Keith shouted from somewhere down the hall. "What's taking so long? You have another medical emergency?" "Ignore him, Sophie," Della called. "Beauty should never be rushed." Something passed across Alden's face, lightening some of the shadows and erasing the hard lines. He released her shoulders. "We should go. People are waiting for us. People who need us." Sophie nodded. She wasn't ready to drop the Prentice idea yet, but Alden was clearly done with the conversation. Maybe he'd change his mind after he did more research. Otherwise, she had no idea how she'd ever get to Prentice on her own. EXILE wasn't a place she could just drop by for a visit. Not that she'd ever be crazy enough to go there. She followed Alden to the back of the mansion, resisting the urge to duck as colored streamers of water shot over their heads in graceful arcs all through the hallway. An arched golden door led outside to a white stone path overlooking the glassy lake where everyone had gathered. "Oh, Sophie!" Della gasped when she saw her. "You really should wear that color more often. Makes your eyes even more striking, especially with your hair that way." "Mom, you're embarrassing her," Bianna said, pushing past Della and Alden and dragging Sophie over to an ornate silver bench. "She's right, though," she whispered. "Red is definitely your color." "Thanks," Sophie mumbled. She slouched, feeling like she was back in her first day at Foxfire when Dame Elena flashed a giant spotlight right at her. "What?" she asked, when she caught Fitz and Keith staring at her. "Nothing," they both mumbled. Three gnomes broke the uncomfortable silence as they dragged a bundle of enormous black fan-shaped leaves to the foot-silver basin in the center of the benches. They carefully formed the leaves into a tower, and Alden lit the top with a long copper match. Flames with every color of the spectrum raised down the stems, growing into an enormous teardrop-shaped bonfire that filled the air with a sweet, sticky aroma like melting sugar. Della passed out skewers with green rat tails spread on the ends, and they roasted them in the flames. When the sausage-flavored tubers turned an ashy brown, they wrapped them in a soft yellow bread that tasted like melted cheese. Sophie felt ready to explode after devouring 3, but Della insisted she still try a ripple nut and handed her a skewer lined with round yellow nuts. The shells turned orange as they roasted, and Bianna showed her how to crack them open and suck out the juice inside. Sophie's eyes watered as the warm goo coated her tongue, but it was worth the heat. It tasted like butter and vanilla and honey melted together with a hint of cinnamon and caramel. When Keith finished his, he used a skewer to poke the flames, showering Sophie and Bianna with rainbow-colored sparks that felt like cool splashes of water. Bianna giggled, but Sophie had to force herself not to flinch. as every spark flew, and her skin tingled with the memory of burns. "I guess a bonfire wasn't the best thing to invite you to her," Fitz transmitted as she rubbed her wrist. She winced. "What's wrong?" "Sorry, you just transmit really loud sometimes." "I do?" "Yup, it's like you're screaming in my head." His cheeks flushed. Or maybe it was the light of the orange flare. "Why didn't you tell me? Is this any better?" "Not really." "How about now?" "A little." "You're just saying that, aren't you?" "It's not bad, really. It just takes a second to get used to." He frowned. "Do you want me to stop?" "Of course not. It's not a big deal." "Well, maybe Sir Tegan can help me figure out what I'm doing wrong. You know about that, right?" "Just saw it on my schedule today." "I guess it was my dad's idea. He wants to see if Sir Tegan can figure out why I can do this now. I keep telling him it's because I'm super talented," he grinned. "But my dad wants to make sure." "Make sure of what?" "Dude, will you guys quit it?" Keith interrupted. "Normal people talk out loud." "Yeah, but this is Sophie," Biana reminded him. "She never does anything the normal way." Everyone laughed, and not in a mean way, and Sophie did her best to smile. But paired with what Fitz had just said, she'd found a new reason to worry. "Oh, this is the best part," Biana said as the fire made a tiny pop. The tower of burning branches collapsed, and a stream of rainbow flames erupted into the sky. The fire split into flecks of light as it hit the atmosphere, spreading like fireworks. But they didn't flash anyway. They lingered above them, surging brighter each second until they finally exploded with a blast of white light that burned Sophie's eyes and triggered a headache so sharp she could hardly breathe. "Are you okay?" Fitz asked, and she had to fight not to cringe. "It's just a headache. It will go away in a minute." "Does that happen a lot?" "Sometimes," she admitted. "Have you told Elwin?" "Not yet, but I'm sure it's not a big deal." "I think you should tell him." "What if something's wrong?" "I'm fine," she promised, and she tried to believe it. But when she trolled into bed that night and closed her eyes, a thin halo glowed in her vision, like the light from the orange flare had burned into her eyelids. And in the last restless moments between wake and sleep, with her head still pounding and her mind replaying all the strange events of the day, she found herself asking the same question Fitz had. What if something's wrong?